You are listening to More Than a Sniff, a weekly podcast of Western States Canine College. I'm Joe, owner and principal trainer here with my colleagues Chris, Michelle, and Shannon. Today, we are going to talk about the emotions of owning a dog versus the emotions of training a dog, and why it's so much easier for dog trainers to make things happen versus owners. So, Michelle, I want you to talk a little bit just owning your own dogs and the things that, like, emotionally, what you let them get away with, maybe. I mean, I don't know if that's the right word, versus when we're going into homes and training.
So with my own dogs, sorry, talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think it's completely different because I have an emotional attachment to my dogs.
Right.
So I think it is different. As we were just talking about this a second ago, I was thinking of how different my life has changed in the past 8 years since we've had Rambo. I used to be an emotional wreck about that dog. Every time he looked at me funny, I'd end up bawling because I was like, something wrong with him, and it was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Or we've talked about this on the podcast in the past. Like, I was so emotional about their schedule and my life being around them, and they had to be walked at a certain time every day, and like, the more I, as a trainer, and I see this in people as well, like, I've just had to realize that it's my life, and they have to live in my life, not the other way around. That being said, of course, I'm a lot more emotional about my dogs than I am about dogs that I'm training.
Right.
And they do get away with stuff, but it's on my terms. And what I mean by that is, like, my little dogs are allowed on the couch.
Right.
That's an emotional decision because I want them to have their cuddling.
Yep.
But my big dog's not. And I know a lot of people. I actually had a friend this weekend she was like, it's just not fair. It's just not, and we weren't even talking about my dogs, we were talking about somebody else's dogs, but she was like, it's just not fair that they do that with that dog and not the other dog. And I was like, that dog doesn't know the rules yet. He's got to learn the rules first. I don't know.
Yeah, so, you know, it's fascinating where somehow emotions cross over where we don't feel like that we can discipline, or that we can, you know, that our dogs are capable of understanding our life, where we feel like we have to mold into them, and the rules have to be all the same, and so that's not how we raise our kids. That's not how we as society, like, it's not, everything isn't treated equal. And I think just sheer domestication, like, the dogs get it. That's, you know, everybody has kind of a place. Shannon, what do you feel like your emotional, I guess, weaknesses are with Louie versus, you know, other dogs that you've been around?
So I think that a lot of people have confusion about the emotional side of it because we really humanize things, and dogs don't feel emotions the same way that we do. Like, they're worried about disciplining them because it will hurt their dog's feelings and their dog won't like them anymore, and that's just not true. Like, your dog, it has unconditional love for you, and discipline isn't mean, it isn't cruelty. You're not being mean to the dog, but it's not going to hurt their feelings and cause them to not like you, you know? And so from just a trainer standpoint, like, I feel that way with my dog Louie, but a lot of people have a problem with disciplining or making him follow rules because he's extremely cute. Mm-hmm. He is the cutest dog I've ever had, and people love him, and when we go out, they think he's so cute, and they want to kiss his face, and, you know, they want him to behave naughty because they think it's cute, and I don't, because I want him to be well behaved. And so that's where I see the difference between Louie and other dogs that I've had, because I've loved all my dogs and I think they're all cute, but he is so, so cute. It gives people have an emotional response that make them, like, want him to behave naughty because they think it's cute, and it's not really appropriate.
Yeah. So, Michelle, what advice can you give you know, our listeners out there on, you know, we'll just throw out there as far as crate training, like from a puppy, they're whining, they're carrying on. What do you do? How do you do this? We're putting them in this box. We're, putting them in this isolated place that doesn't seem right, and it seems like jail. And how do you address that?
Well, first of all, I explained to them that dogs are den creatures. So if we create a spot for them like that, eventually they will actually really love that spot. So I kind of explained it to them in a dog's point of view from that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then we also talk about how most of the time crate training is not forever. Usually it's the first year. Most of my dogs, by 6 months, were out of a crate at night, and by a year they were out all the time.
Yeah.
It was just something that the dogs had to learn the rules first before we allowed them to be out. I think that's a lot of it. As we're talking about this, the more I'm thinking about, I think the older, if you set rules in the beginning and you follow them, later you can be more emotional and allow the dog to be more emotional, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because they learn the rules. And then there's definitely times that we have to revisit stuff and go back. If anything weird in the house happens, they do get crated during the day and stuff like that. If we have company over or something weird happens, you definitely have to revisit the rules occasionally and stuff, but it's just not as emotional. Also, I explaining crate training to people, I think, is usually fairly easy because you just explain how important it is for them to be crate trained, even if it's not important in your life every day. You never know. You never know when your dog is going to have to go on a car ride with somebody that, where they get hurt and they have to be somewhere like a vet's office, or you get called out of town for no reason, for some crazy reason, and they have to be kenneled. There's just no reason for your dog not to feel comfortable in that situation.
Right. Yep. Shannon, what, from being in the vet clinic, behind the scenes things, what type of things, because of people's emotional hardship or emotions with crate training, have you seen, the ramifications in the back end of being in a vet clinic in a kennel?
So at the veterinary office, all the dogs that have to stay with us for treatment during the day have to go in a kennel to keep all of the dogs and staff at the vet safe. You don't want your dog coming into contact with dogs that are sick or hurt at the vet. It's potentially your dog could get sick. And so, everybody has to just be in a kennel when they're there. It's just the facts. If they're not comfortable being in a kennel, it is extremely stressful for them. And they can't be constantly trying to break out of the kennel all day. They can hurt their teeth trying to break through the bars. They will bark, howl all day long. And if they're having a stressful situation, the other dogs can feel that it's a stressful situation too, and it starts to rile up all the dogs. So we'll have to keep them separate in another room so that all the dogs don't start getting upset. And it really, going to the vet should not be bad experience. It should just be a normal experience where they can go and feel comfortable in the kennel and then go home. It shouldn't be a traumatic event.
Yeah, I don't know any dog at some point in their life that doesn't stay at the vet for a length of time. Whether it's teeth cleaning or just a general exam that you can drop off and pick them up. And so, and this podcast isn't meant to be about crate training necessarily, but there's a lot of emotion about crate training, and then that stems to all the other emotions of disciplining and feeling guilty. We don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want our dogs to be sad and sleeping in a box all day long, where for us as dog trainers, we don't look at it as a box. We look at it as a safe place to be. We want our dogs to sleep and relax when we're not home, and that helps them understand that. Also, I have a client that her dog gets really grumpy when he's, their weekends are the hardest, and he snips at the kids, and he gets ornery with the family members because he's in his crate less, he's sleeping less, and he's a young dog. But, going back to, we need to make sure that they have a place that they can sleep, and we give that to ourselves. We give that to our kids. We give that, like, here's your place. It's time to check out. It's time to relax. It's time to sleep. But somewhere that emotion with the dogs, boy, it's really difficult emotionally to have a dog and you let him get away with things and it'll be okay. And then long term, it's not. So, why does a dog trainer become so successful at training a dog versus sometimes training your own dog that you have, Michelle?
Because we don't have the emotional attached to them.
Right.
That being said, it's not that we don't love everybody's dogs, because we generally here do love dogs. But it's just easier because we set them on a schedule, and we don't cuddle them at night. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have that as emotional attachment to them.
Yeah. And so it's easier to just set the rules and accomplish, because that's what we're getting paid to do. And I think as dog owners, if you have a problem or you have a goal that you're trying to accomplish, look at it as, I owe it to my dog, and this is the job right now, and I'm not going to fail my dog, and so I'm going to take the emotion out of that one thing to accomplish it, because then you can, like you're saying, Michelle, you can have the emotion later on. You can give it back to them, or you can, see where they're at with it. And, I think it's across the board, owning animals. I rode my horse yesterday for the first time in 3 months or so, but probably longer. And then I didn't ride her a lot in the winter. And I got on and I got bucked off yesterday. And for me, it was kind of a wake-up call of, man, I failed my horse. Like, she's just fat, feeling lazy. She's a ranchy mare. And she's like, well, I don't want to work. I don't want to do this. And so, and I look at that with the same, thing with my dogs, is when we get emotion and it's like, oh, it's cold and she's all fuzzy, or the dogs, oh, that'll be fine and we'll work on it later, where I really felt like I failed my dogs, or my horse. And there's times that when my dogs make error, and you hear it all the time, that, well, it's the people's fault that the dog's so bad or whatnot. Some of that's kind of true when you fail your dogs, or like, I failed my horse. That was a big wake up call for me. And I think that it's because I just let the emotions get into it all. And so you have to take the emotions out of it so you don't fail your dog, because I think that's probably one of the meanest things that a person can do is not train their dogs. Shannon, what are some of the things that you've seen that where the dog really wants to thrive, but the owner is constantly maybe holding them back or failing them?
So I think part of that can be selecting your dog in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
A client that I known before was severely homebound, I would say, because of medical condition.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to have a walker, and they had to be on oxygen, and they couldn't get out, and they got a Weimaraner. And that was like the worst match of a dog that I've ever seen in my life, because they couldn't give that dog the exercise and the job that it needed to be able to do in the house because of their medical condition. So, and I mean, I'm sure that they could, if they had someone to help them that lived at home, they could teach the dog a job, and maybe it could have even been their service dog and help them, but they didn't have that viewpoint going into selecting that dog. They just wanted to have a dog and just got one, I think, and so you have to think about, that's taking the emotion out of it, right? Not just, I just want a dog, I'll get whatever I want. Oh, this dog's really cute, so I'll just get that. Oh, there's this dog for sale at Walmart, and it just shouldn't have a life of being for sale out of a box at Walmart, so I should just take it home. When you go get a dog, you have to have things in your mind about how the dog's going to fit into your life, and what job you're going to get the dog, and how you're going to be able to fulfill the dog's needs, because you want it to help you fulfill some of your needs, right? You want a companion and to have someone in your house, and you might want a dog to go hiking with or whatever, but you have to think about their needs too, because you're having a relationship with the dog. So I think all of that plays into being able to train it appropriately for the lifestyle that you're wanting to have with the dog. If you want a dog that's going to sleep on your bed and sit on your lap while you watch TV, like, you might not want to get a hunting dog.
Right.
Or if you want to have a dog that goes hiking with you everywhere and can be safe on the trail and stuff, like, you might not want to get a Chihuahua. Chihuahuas are good hikers, but it's not like a mountain lion could come in your Chihuahua, you know? So you have to think about that in the aspect of training. How are you able to train the dog, and how is it going to fit in your life?
Yeah. Michelle?
So to just add on to that, I was thinking about like my own dogs and stuff. It's funny because when I first got my 2 little dogs, it was a much more emotional decision for me. They were cute and I wanted them, right? And then when I got Murphy, it was definitely more of a, let's sit down and think about this. What kind of dog do I want in my life type of thing. And it was not emotional, and I hate to say this, I did not like Murphy till he was almost a year old. But I picked him, and I picked him for the lifestyle that I wanted, and I trained him for what I wanted him to be, and now I, hands down, love him more than the other 2 combined. So that's terrible to say as well. But that being said, because I didn't like him, he had rules when he was younger.
Right.
And we don't have to revisit those rules, and my other 2 are an emotional wreck, both of them.
Yeah.
They're really not that bad, but they're different for sure.
Right.
Like, they're definitely more anxious and stuff, and it was because I was more emotional about their training than I ever was Murphy's.
Right.
So I 100% agree with Shannon that even though I did not like Murphy, I still got him to fit that lifestyle that I wanted, and now, like, hands down, was the best dog. So
and that's how Chianti is. I didn't like her. She was actually picked by the kids, and long story, but that's how it was with her. And now she's like the most snuggly, emotional, connected dog that I've ever had. So it's definitely picking our male. I picked him for the family, and definitely not for us. And he's the family's dog. And Chris had never had a big dog in his life, and so he kind of clung on to him a lot more. So, you know, he's Bora's everybody's dog, but not really anybody's dog, which is kind of fascinating. But it's perfect, you know. But we as dog trainers still have emotions, and our dogs are not perfect, and we definitely let them get away with things and do things that people, you know, you go into homes and they're like, oh, we let our dog sleep with us. And I'm like, that's okay, so do we. You know, and so there's this somewhat guilt, but, you know, we're not perfect either. And so, you know, at the end of this podcast, the biggest thing that I would say, the takeaway is have goals, have expectations, and don't fail your dog because your own emotions get in the way. Your dog thrives for structure and expectations, and they can be emotional through it too. So it's okay for them to love you. It's okay to snuggle. It's okay to have, you know, pack them around for a while if that's what you're going to do. But you have to take the emotion out of the training and what the end goal is, and looking at the big picture.
Thank you for listening. If you want to know more about us and our services, please visit our website at www.wsk9co.com. And as always, we urge you to get out and train.